We are living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed and some alteration in our reality occurs. We would have the overwhelming impression that we were reliving the present, déjà vu, perhaps in precisely the same way, hearing the same words, saying the same words. I submit that these impressions are valid and significant, and I will even say this: such an impression is a clue that at some past time point a variable was changed, reprogrammed as it were, and that because of this an alternative world branched off.
The Second Coming by W.B. Yeats. Turning and turning in the widening gyre, the falcon cannot hear the falconer. Things fall apart, the center cannot hold. Mere anarchy is loosed upon the world. The blood-dim tide is loosed, and everywhere the ceremony of innocence is drowned. The best lack all conviction, while the worst are full of passionate intensity. Surely some revelation is at hand. Surely the second coming is at hand. The second coming. Hardly are those words out, when a vast image out of Spiritus Mundi troubles my sight. A waste of desert sand, a shape with lion body and the head of a man, a gaze blank and pitiless as the sun, is moving its slow thighs, while all about it, real shadows of the indignant desert birds. The darkness drops again, but now I know that 20 centuries of stony sleep were vexed to nightmare by a rocking cradle. And what rough beast, its hour come round at last, slouches towards Bethlehem to be born?
That, of course, is the musical, or a musical adaptation of The Second Coming by W.B. Yeats. Welcome to today's show. This is Robert Phoenix, and today is the Friday FARcast. It's the 12th of July, and the reason I played that piece of spoken word with a little bit of music in the background, I think that's Nordhellions, by the way, whose voice, whose deep baritone tones did justice to Yeats's words. The reason I played that today is because there seems to be something afoot, and let me just tell you why. I'm not sure whether it's because something goes viral, and I have a number of people that read the websites and follow the show and jump in on Facebook, and maybe we're all looking at the same sources for information, or perhaps there is something else going on here. But all of a sudden, my inbox on Facebook and in my email account have gotten flooded with people bringing me lots of information and symbolism around what potentially could be the start of the end of the world, right around July 22nd, a mere 10 days from now. And there's another apparent gateway that's opening up on the 29th of July, which is perhaps a little bit different than the one that was presented to me for the 22nd. But nonetheless, there is some compelling imagery taking place in the sky if you connect the dots and if you sort of adjust the modulation of the aspects to a particular system. What I'm referring to specifically is there is a Star of David that's showing up on the 22nd of July. Now, what's interesting is that the astrologer Luis Vega, who I'd not heard of before, and he apparently is connected to Sonoma State. Perhaps he is a teacher at Sonoma State. Maybe I can get him on the show and find out what he's talking about. I'm not sure I completely and entirely trust his material because, I don't know, some of the imagery is fascinating. He's got an upside down compass and a square for his symbol, and he has, it looks like it's Cancer. He's got the Cancer symbol, but it also represents 66 inside of that symbol. That's his, it says ICU2. Interesting. So maybe I could endeavor to have Luis B. Vega on the show. It's great work, by the way. The graphics are top-notch. You can find him at sonoma.edu.users, or just look up Luis B. Vega. I'm sure you'll find his stuff on the internet. But apparently he sees the 22nd of July as this Star of David, and he actually tracks this similar alignment, but with varying stars. He's using fixed stars, and the fixed stars don't move a lot, so they kind of move forward a little bit and backwards a little bit. So they would, I believe, have a tendency to come up together in time with some of the other aspects, such as, well, here he has Venus, Neptune, the Moon, Pluto, and Mercury, Mars, Jupiter, but he has in sidereal fashion for the 22nd of July and forming a Star of David. He's been tracking this for a while. And then he's got a cross in the sky at that point in time with Saturn, Venus, Earth, Neptune all in alignment going horizontal, and then Pluto, Mercury, the Sun, Mars, Jupiter doing the vertical. So there is a cross, and there's the galactic center just beyond, or just to the, looks, if you're looking at Pluto straight on, it would be galactic center to the right, which would put it in Sagittarius, just off the galactic plane. So there's a cross here, and then he calls this the 13th Star of David planetary alignment since 1990. So that's in the sky. That's happening. But again, he's using sidereal astrology in order to put this together. He also works Ophiuchus in as well. So he's definitely in the sidereal camp, and Ophiuchus, the 13th sign, and Antares showing up on the winter solstice just before Ophiuchus, opposing Aldebaran on the summer solstice. So anyway, this came to me, and he's got a number of things here which are pretty interesting in terms of what could potentially take place. Now, his whole piece is that this is actually potentially the beginning of the rapture, and the potential second coming of Jesus. Now, what's also interesting about this is he's got this wrapped in some Old Testament material, and also there's a lot of Israel imagery and Israel significance that relates to this. I had another person send me some videos from YouTube, and she sent me some videos about kind of the same thing. Well, this is not really coming from a astrological perspective per se, but it's coming from a Christian perspective. And again, this has to do with Israel and Yahweh, and I don't know. I have a hard time wrapping my head around this kind of ideology, because I firmly believe that the state of Israel was created under the guise of robbery and taking it from people that actually lived there. So I have an issue with it in terms of its biblical significance. Okay, I just do. Now, some people may say, well, that's because ultimately what will take place is that they will see the error of their ways, look to repent, and seek to find Jesus Christ for that redemption. And that none of this can happen without them doing what they're doing. I just have a hard time in general with that entire concept. So when I get sent, and maybe it has nothing to do with me, maybe God just says, hey, too bad, buddy. Too bad you've got a hard time with this. This is just the way it is. But anytime somebody sends me stuff that is related to this, it makes my stomach turn, to be honest with you. Now, it may exist regardless of me, so be it. But something is in the air. I'm going to tell you that right now. Another person sent me an email. It wasn't just an email. It was a very long post by John Kaminsky. There's a site called The Rebel, and I guess Kaminsky's writing for this site now. He's been kicked off a number of sites. I like John a lot. I think what he does is absolutely great, and he makes people stand up and think. And some people don't like what he has to say. It can be very challenging, what he has to say. But there's a lot of truth in what John has to say, too. So John noted that the Zen gardener has left America. He's left the United States. He's gone to seek refuge elsewhere outside of this country. And John likened it to the Titanic, the sinking of the Titanic, and that's where the United States is right now. It's about ready to sink, and the Zen gardener jumped ship. And there are a number of reactions that people are having to this. The one reaction is that people are let down, or people feel let down, because the Zen gardener was somebody who was pretty level-headed, or probably still is. He's just not being level-headed here in this country. He's pretty level-headed, and he always seemed to have kind of a spiritual, sort of cosmic card up his sleeve, that if things looked rocky, if things looked like they were going to just go completely off kilter, he was able to somehow rein it in and talk through it and provide a spiritual solution to people. Kind of what I attempt to do with what I do. And by him leaving this country, in some ways, people are interpreting that there's no hope, that there is absolutely no hope left. And it's dispiriting to a number of people. Then there are people who say that he's a coward, that he needs to be able to fight the good fight to the end, blah, blah, blah. I don't necessarily believe that. There are times to get out of Dodge. That's just the way it is. You know, smarter people, and it's like there are times where we're running is a valid strategy. Retreat can be a very valid strategy, especially if you have kids, especially if you have a family. If you're on your own and you don't have anything to lose, and live by the sword, die by the sword. So his departure is evoking a number of different reactions in people, and this is yet another piece that is lending some credence to the fact that something is brewing, that something might actually be happening right now in the mix, so that we are potentially staring down some very game-changing times on this planet. I was just on the internet before I got on the show, just to see if I could find some news, and sure enough, I did find some news. If we go to Yahoo, there was a train crash, another train crash. This to go along with the three plane crashes from last week, and another plane crash which almost took place with the same style of jet in Greece. It was the Boeing 707. So let me just read this to you. This is also, very interesting. There's the image is from, where are we here? It's in Paris. It's just outside of Paris. It says here, France's interior minister says at least 7 people are believed dead and several injured after a packed passenger train derailed outside of Paris. How does this happen, by the way? It says Interior Minister Manuel Valls told reporters that the casualty toll is in constant evolution, suggesting it could rise. The SNCF, National Rail Authority, says the train was carrying some 385 passengers when it derailed Friday evening at 5:15 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time and crashed into the station at Pratanier-sur-Orge, 12 miles south of Paris. The train was headed to Limoges. SNCF official Jean-Paul Boulet says 4 carriages piled up after the train derailed. He could not confirm reports that passengers were still trapped inside. So you may want to keep your eye on this. It's yet another casualty, a series of casualties and disasters that have been taking place over the past week. And what's fascinating is on this picture, there are 3 people looking at the station from the other side of the tracks. And there's a guy wearing a cap that has some very interesting symbols. There's an upside-down dollar sign. There is a pyramid. What else do we have there? Let's see. I can't make out the other symbol, but it looks like it's an I. And then there's a T. I think it's supposed to say TOSA. But some interesting symbolism on this young man's hat as they look at the wreckage together. So anyway, I just decided, since I have a hole today here's another piece. Here's another interesting piece. Gianni Napolitano is leaving Homeland Security. I wonder why. She's going to UC Berkeley, which is where all good radicals go to retire. Robert Rubin, is it Robert Reich? Robert Reich is there, formerly of the Clinton administration. He's a professor emeritus at Berkeley. And now Janet Napolitano going to Berkeley. Let's read this. This is from Reuters. Let's see what she says here. It says Homeland Security Secretary Janet Napolitano said on Friday she will leave her position in the Obama administration to lead the University of California. So she's going to become the head of the University of California. Wow. It was not immediately clear who would replace her at the helm of the Department of Homeland Security, the 3rd largest U.S. department with a broad mandate, including immigration and disaster response. Napolitano, former Arizona governor, has been a vocal proponent of immigration reform and had a prominent role in briefing Congress and the public about terrorist threats and attacks such as the Boston Marathon bombings earlier this year. Obama thanked her for working around the clock to respond to natural disasters, including the Joplin, Missouri tornado and Hurricane Sandy that battered the Northeast, as well as other challenges. Of course, these are mostly synthetically created disasters. Most people who are outside of the realm of mainstream news and who have any moderate understanding about alternative technologies and HAARP know that this is the case. Since day one, Janet has led my administration's efforts to secure our borders, deploying a historic number of resources while also taking steps to make our immigration system fairer and more consistent with our values, Obama said in a statement. The American people are safer and more secure thanks to Janet's leadership. The Department of Homeland Security was created in response to the September 11, 2001 attacks and has more than 240,000 employees. Let me repeat that. More than 240,000 employees focusing on sectors including aviation, border security, and cybersecurity. Early in her career, Napolitano led the domestic terrorism investigation into the Oklahoma City bombing as U.S. Attorney for the District of Arizona. That was her payback. She also served as an attorney for Anita Hill, who testified to Senate in 1991 accusing then U.S. Supreme Court nominee Clarence Thomas of sexual harassment. Napolitano, in a statement, thanked Obama for the chance to serve the United States during this important chapter of our history and said she was looking forward to her new role on educating our nation's next generations of leaders. I'll bet she is. Let's read some of the comments, shall we, from this Yahoo story. Good. Now let's get rid of the position for good. Take back all the military hardware you've been giving to local police departments and reread our Constitution. 166 people liked that comment, 3 did not. People are hip, people are wise, but the question is it too late? Scott, another commenter, says, this just in, scandal to follow. Stay tuned, America. This is not a bad thing. It's a good thing. She's jumping ship. Please don't come back to Arizona. You've done enough damage already. In the wake of the eavesdropping scandal, she is jumping ship. She is the most destructive Homeland Security Secretary ever. She is corrupt and a liar. 203 people like that. I don't know if she's the most destructive. There's only been 2. And the other, now, keep in mind that Obama could say, hey, who's done this before? Let's bring back Michael Chertoff. He's out there. He's a free agent. Be careful what you ask for, people. I think Chertoff means devil in Russian, by the way. Somebody says, Obama, take the hint now. You do it. Don't let the door hit you. The choice between the devil we know and the devil we don't. Exactly what I just said. This woman is an insult to our nation on 141 likes. Non-vet, kind of like the liberals, blaming everything on Obama. That's okay. Finally, something good happening in America. Here's another one. Rats are always the first to abandon a sinking ship. Not soon enough. Should go yesterday. Wonder if that is a voluntary resignation or one of those asked to leave resignations. Goodbye. She got the job because she's an Obama supporter. Should never have the position to begin with. One huge liar. Many more to go. So by and large, the opinion here on the unbiased Yahoo News is quite in favor of the exodus of Janet Napolitano, and not only that, but also the challenge and the danger that the Department of Homeland Security has posed for a number of people. It's only been around since 2001 or just after 2001, and they've got 240,000 employees. Think about that. Within 12 years of the genesis of Homeland Security, it has become a significant institution in this country, and perhaps one of the largest departments in the United States, all funded by you and me, yours truly, to be able to create these jobs, listen in on us, and buy a bunch of bullets and train their DHS employees to handle any kind of civil disturbance that might come up. So this is where we are right now, and it's another interesting development that we can add to kind of an overall milieu of potentially a very volatile period of time that we're staring down. Yesterday, I was driving to San Antonio, and I saw it was kind of a new variation on the chemtrail. By the way, they're chemtrailing here today. They started, yes, I hadn't seen chemtrails in a few weeks, but the other thing that's interesting about the chemtrails lately is I'm seeing chemtrails without planes. Has anybody else been seeing this? It's like, where are the planes? All of a sudden, these lines are showing up in the sky, and I don't see any planes. Now, I do see planes from time to time, but I haven't seen them. I just see the trails. Maybe I'm getting out there late. Anyway, so yesterday, I'm driving down the road, and I noticed that there are natural cloud cover, nice big puffy cotton, cumulonimbus or cirrus clouds, whatever they are. And all of a sudden, I see a chemtrail falling from the sky, and you can tell the difference between the two. The clouds look like puffs of cotton candy, and the chemtrails look like these rivers of gray ooze dripping from the sky. So this chemtrail was very much intact. It didn't disperse. Okay, it did not disperse. It did not have that kind of blanket coverage that chemtrails do. This one was intact, and it was almost like it was chasing this cloud and pouring itself right into the cloud itself. I was fascinated by what I was seeing. It seemed to have its own kind of navigational property. And so I had to ask myself, well, what's causing this? Is somebody actually directing this thing with a little remote control device? Or is it perhaps that what's in the chemtrails is a series of nano arrays, and that they're all intelligent, right? And they're all programmed to basically guide themselves towards a concentration of humidity or a concentration of moisture in the sky, which means that they would find the nearest cloud and then all assemble towards that cloud, become part of it. It was a fascinating thing to watch. I've never seen that kind of activity in the sky before. So anyway, they're back, and they're back and bigger and better than ever before. So what I want to do now is I'm not sure if I'm going to go 2 hours today. I will go at least an hour. But what I want to do is I want to open up the phone lines, 347-308-8995, 347-308-8995. And you can call in, and if you have any feelings about where we are as we begin to stare down the July 22nd, July 29th, and do not underestimate the birth of William and Kate's child, which for all intents and purposes looks like it's going to be a girl. Do not underestimate this as a significant event, as being part of this symbolic milieu that we're looking at right now. In the eyes of the people who drive these things, I'm sure it's very important. We can connect up all the dots and align the planets, and I'm sure it falls into place somewhere. So let me give you the number again, 347-308-8995, 347-308-8995. And if you have any thoughts about where we are we staring down the rapture? Are we looking at the potential of the quote-unquote second coming? And if that is the case, then we must go through tribulation, and we must meet and come face to face with the Antichrist as well. It's all part of the game. It's all part of the end game. That, my friends, comes to us in Revelation. There's also a bit of revelation in the book of Daniel, and that's interesting as well. So that is what we are looking at on today's show. So if you have any comments or questions or any ideas or anything else you want to add to the conversation, please call right in, and I'll get you right in the air. Why don't we do this? I'm going to play some music, and let's see how the phone lines are on the back end, give people some time to call in. What do I want to play? How about, Last Plane Out. This is actually, I think, a very apropos piece of music for where we are, and what some people are hoping to do is catch the last plane out. This is Toy Matinee.
The trees are all cleared. No time for a conscience, and we recognize no crime. Yeah, we got dogs and Valvoline. It's a pretty damn good time. Man of reason, not of rhyme. Keep the spoils and share the crime. Hey, good man, bad man, oh, without hope for passage on the last plane out. Whoa, whoa, whoa. There was one repressed do-gooder and a few who still believe. Yes, I think there were 5 good men here yesterday, but they were asked to leave. So we kept the good old vices and labored to invent a few. With cake and vulgar surplus, we can have it and eat it too. Man of reason, not of rhyme. Keep the spoils and share your crime. Good man, bad, every man without hope for passage on the last plane out. Man of reason, hide your face. Walking backwards, lazy. Good man, bad man, free man without hope for passage on the last plane out. Here's a concept you can't dance to, an idea you cannot harm. There may not be an empty seat when all is said and done. Well, I'm not the guy who sings ahead, no bleeding heart to mend. But I like the part where regret hijacks the little red hand. Someone said the big man may be joining us soon, but I never was the type to hang with the harbingers of doom. And this party is addictive, self-destructive, no doubt. So I hope that someone saves a seat for me on the last plane out. Man of reason, not of rhyme. Keep the spoils and share the crime. Good man, bad man, free man without hope for passage on the last plane out. Man of reason, hide your face.
Broadway matinee, and that led by Kevin Gilbert, the late Kevin Gilbert, who did take the last plane out on May 17th, 1996, where he died of autoerotic asphyxiation, which meant he was choking himself off to have a more intense and powerful orgasm. But he did write a very good tune, didn't he? Last Plane Out. All right, so let's see. We've got somebody who wants to chime in and give us their perspective of where we are. Maybe we are at 11:59 p.m. Maybe it's 1 minute to midnight, 2 minutes to midnight. Let's find out who they are and what they want to share.
Hi, Robert.
Hello? Hi.
This is the gardener.
Hey, what's happening, Lady G?
Well, I came into your show a little late, and I don't know if I got you that link or not, but that same Star of David configurations really impacted me when I came upon it, around new moon time, and enough for me to write down all the dates of the prior ones.
Yep.
And so, do you have those down?
I do. Let me see if I can find them.
Yeah, I've got them on a list.
Yeah, I do.
I wanted to analyze those dates. Several were pertinent to me particularly, but I'm kind of sensitive with the dates and numbers. I remember them all pretty well. But anyway, that segued me off into this other site, because I went to the source site of it. And that actually was a disappointment to me, the message at that site. I don't know if you went there and read the person at that site.
Are we talking about Luis Vega?
I guess.
Yeah, I wasn't crazy about the message myself.
Yeah, it's totally I feel this is really, really important, and I thought Kate was due this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
But you bringing it up that she's, that I know they totally use astrology to time everything, and this really makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
That they would time it for, a significant astral event like this. So then that segued me off onto some other site that really blew my mind, and I emailed it over to Less Visible because he's trying to transition out and get a number of us to transition out to another continent with him too. So yeah, when I came across Zen Gardener having went somewhere else, I think if you're able to and want to and just are able to, I would.
Well, what's really interesting is that if you look at, because Kaminsky was talking about this, and I don't think we can fully understand the impact of Fukushima on the Northern Hemisphere.
Right.
I mean,
yeah.
This continues to just absolutely bleed. Isotopes and all kinds of heavy metals and radioactivity. And hot particles, and it's probably, since Fukushima has happened, all the crap from Fukushima has probably gone around the planet, dozens and dozens of times already.
Right, and it's not like it's abated; it's still ongoing too.
It's getting worse, actually. It's not getting
better.
Right.
Well, and that's always been my bottom line. And being in Idaho at impact time, and we had such heavy rains right then, and in March and April. I remember when it went off that same week, my son had started cross-country running in the rain, and, I feel like I've terrorized my own child his entire life with what I do know to be true.
Mm-hmm.
And, how do you guide your children without terrifying them? Or making them so depressed they don't even want to make an effort to try to live. But then the reality is like, what are you going to do when we're all nuked and radiated?
I don't have an answer for that because I am a parent in a split household and two parents with vastly different ideologies in cosmology.
Yeah, that would be really hard. Yes, it would be very, very hard.
I have no answer for that. But I do remember the first week of Fukushima, and there were these unusual rains in California.
Right.
That I had never seen before in California, and I'd lived in California all my life. These were like violent, absolutely violent rains. The drops of the rain themselves were like about the size of quarters.
Right, that's how it was in Idaho too.
Yeah, and then they
primordial or something.
Then they turned to hail, and all of a sudden we got they shrunk a little bit, but now we're getting dime-sized balls of hail. And
weird.
Yeah, it was very weird, and we're talking that was March, right? So I was freaked out. I was very freaked out when those rains took place.
Right.
But just so getting back on the topic of where to go. I mean, the northern hemisphere.
Yeah, well, that's with my dear friend Les Visible. I really truly love him, and I totally get him, and I totally get it. And but gut line tells me there's nowhere to run and hide because of Fukushima, because of the Gulf Stream being destroyed by BP destroying the Gulf, too. Then we got that, little axis point, too. We've had the mildest, everywhere I go, people are lifting an eyebrow at me saying we've never had a summer like this in southern Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
It was downright chilly on the 4th of July.
Well,
that doesn't happen. And it's like, well, I know. They're going easy on me. I don't have my gills developed yet for living in the swamp humidity, and Jesus coming lightly on me. But, everyone realizes that our weather is different. Everyone's, gets it that what's up with all these plane crashes, these derailments this week.
Well, what's really, while the music was playing, I did go online, and I wanted to see if I could find any more relevant news that we could bring into this discussion. And I did find that, and I don't know if you saw this, but the pilot of the Asiana flight, I believe it was 241.
That one.
Boeing. Yeah, this is from last week in San Francisco.
Oh, okay.
He said that he saw a flash of light.
Right.
By a flash of light before he landed the plane. So
right.
Let me just read this. It says here, the pilot of the crash-landed Asiana Airlines plane told investigators he was temporarily blinded by a bright light shortly before touching the ground. A senior official was quoted as saying by USA Today, Deborah Horstman, there she is again. She's been the kind of the talking head for the NTSB. She says that the pilot was blinded when 500 feet above the ground. The comment was made during a daily press briefing on the Saturday crash. Well, he dead and over 160 injured. When asked specifically whether it could have been a laser pointed from the ground, Hirschman said she had no answer at the moment. We need to understand exactly what that is, she said. It was a temporary issue. So this is feeling more and more like foul play. Here's another one. Passenger aircraft emergency lands in East Siberia. So there's another plane that came down very quickly.
Well, you saw that. Let me interrupt a little bit. You saw that thing from Dublin Mix site about that guy who was saying it was all the methane, I believe it was, that, it would result in, he had a whole list, like buses that just, spontaneously burst into fire, porches, cars parked next to your house bursting into flames all by themselves, a whole list of disastrous things bursting in the fire, kind of like that train wreck thing up in
this is because
Canada. So I keep worrying that that's, might be what's going on too. I keep thinking about that. Was a pretty incredible article with lots of documented data on how common this is getting,
because
and that if your porch is
it the fracking that is being linked to the methane?
No, I'll find that and then post it. It was really kind of chilling reality, and then right after I read that, a week later, is when that really bizarre train unhitched itself somehow and got off the tracks and blew up and burned up the whole town. But yeah, there's been a couple of big climatic type things. That also last night Tesla's birthday was the 10th at midnight.
That's right.
And Nikola Tesla, I really got into his life last night, and it did sound like he had Asperger's really heartily and all these other things, but mainly all the paranormal behaviors of visualization that enabled him to create these incredible inventions, 100% complete, where he even get them running in his mind's eye. Mm-hmm. And then where he didn't even, do plans or schematic, he would have it running to see what the problems were and fix it before he actually physically created it. And one thing he really said was that we would get into telepathy, we would get into all these things that I felt like we would. That's the natural course for where we're headed right now. So reading all that last night really, really twirled me, and I really focused. He told how the visualizations came to him, and how he would go into them deeper, and get it totally, fully developed, along with his shots of light in his, mind or eyes or whatever that would blind him. I don't know. It was just such an incredibly fascinating bio I read on Astro.com. You can just do a search for Nikola Tesla, and that was one of the best ones I read. But then I got into all these other analyses of what was this man really, what was really going on with him.
There's an interesting movie that was made by Orson Welles, and Orson Welles plays J.P. Morgan in the movie, and it's kind of hokey in some ways, but it actually, Welles was fascinated by Tesla, and he produced the movie, and his young wife at the time plays this quasi paramour of Tesla. Tesla was a ladies' man. People don't know that, but he was actually a ladies. He was very good looking, and he was very dapper. And he had a table, a booth that had his name on it at the Astoria, the Waldorf Astoria in New York, where he would hold court. The thing about Tesla, which is what he kind of alludes to, is that his mind, he saw his mind as like a transceiver, and what he was doing was picking up the signals of a quote-unquote higher mind or a holographic intelligence, which is where he was getting his blueprints and everything that he could see in his mind's eye complete. That was his concept of the mind, that he was able to switch on and tap into this frequency that was essentially working with him at a high level. Did you ever get into Patricia Corey's stuff at all? Patricia Corey is interesting. I had her on the show a long time ago, and her first couple of books are channeled, and they're channeled by the Syrians and the Syrian High Council. And I thought that I think Atlantis Rising was one of them. Her books, her first two books, were some of the best channeled material I've ever read, and very, very clear, very real stuff. And the channel material says that Tesla, the reason why Tesla was here was that he had been in Atlantis and he had fucked up Atlantis. That's why he came back and wanted to correct the wrong, the ills and the wrongdoing that he did there. And unfortunately, what he did is, it looks like he's kind of again recreated Atlantis with the HARP technology, which is being used across the planet now. So, but I do recommend those first two Patricia Cori books. If anybody wants to.
How do you spell her last name?
Cori, Patricia Cori. Way back in the archive, I actually helped her get her American publishing deal because her first books were just published on a small press in Italy, and I discovered them, and I thought, well, they need wider distribution, so I got her hooked into a friend of mine who's a publisher, Richard Grossinger, who's been on the show. So anyway, I do recommend those two books, especially if you want to learn more about. Well,
here another good thing, a trippy thing about Tesla was, as I was reading on Asperger's, which I think I have too, all these segues off of his stories. He has Chiron in Aquarius at 3 degrees, and he had a thing about threes. And as soon as I saw that in his chart that his Chiron's at 3 Aquarius, yeah, and I'm remembering what you said on your show the other day about how it was that lady whose family all rejected her and used her, and how much she hated him and stuff. And and you brought up that Chiron in Aquarius, which you have. I have it. I started doing checks on people I resonate with, and it's amazing how many have Chiron in Aquarius. And that he did too, I thought explained a lot about him with the electricity. I mean, the only thing where I saw him really relaxed and grinning was the picture of him with Mark Twain in his laboratory with Mark Twain holding the light bulb.
Yep.
And, it was like, check this out, where Tesla was really enjoying himself. That was a very cool picture. But I don't know, that, 'cause I was just kind of meditating on his chart and seeing what I could see through feeling it. And here's a Cancer, which they're so busy, they're the ones that love all the meetings and love all the encounters and dancing and fun and people, but then he had to have his massive alone time. So he was very smart not getting into the trap, but yet, on the other hand, he was alone, and because he was alone, and here were all these huge gangs, the Westinghouse gang, all these, entities, corporations, they ate him up.
Yeah.
They cheated and tricked him, and, and he again and again and again, and it was because he was alone. That's where having a good wife or a connected wife and family behind you really does help if you can handle it. I don't think he could have handled it. And his bird thing, I really got into that. So, that 722 charts article really spun me off this week on the new moon week, and diverted me from my practical realities of what I'm supposed to be doing. But I put a lot of time and effort. So what do you think, Robert? Were you going to just hunker down there in Austin?
Well, I have no choice, really. I mean, I guess I do have it. It's funny. I was thinking about Austin and Texas in general. I went to a theme park yesterday. I went to Six Flags Fiesta, which was an interesting kind of trip unto itself. Right? 'Cause whenever you go to a theme park, you get to see a specific slice of Americana.
Right.
And there's a new trend with theme parks, in that the trend with theme parks is that you buy a season pass, and then you can go to the theme park anytime if you go enough. well, it's really a pretty decent investment in terms of your time and money. And there seems to be, in my experience of theme parks, and I hope that this does not come across as being, racist, but it seems to me that there is a large group of Latin American people that attend theme parks because it represents, number one, a family outing, and number two, it's affordable. Like I say, you buy the passes and you can use them again and again and again. So when you wind up going to a theme park, generally speaking, my experience is that there's a large group of Latin American families that attend theme parks, it's an interesting slice of America. It's the new America, and people, they may be asleep to it, they may not want to recognize it, or they want to push it away, and it's just the way it is, And I'm like, okay.
I noticed that at Magic Mountain in Valencia a long time ago. Probably 20 years ago was the last time I went there. And that one was like so dirty. All the water rides, all the water was dirty. That was the first time I really saw some major gang members when they still let them in the parks. First time I ever saw a 6'2" black transvestite in gold lame.
Oh, that's interesting.
And I just, that was in the 70s. And I was just, I was just kind of marveling at him. And he got, kind of hostile. Was like, "What are you looking at?"
Well,
I was like, I don't know. What are you looking at? And I was like, I don't know.
So the park experience is interesting. It's like, okay, well, this is kind of where it's at, and we had a good time. Everybody was really nice. We didn't get, there were no hassles or anything. It was just a notice. That's all it was. But I was driving back. I'm thinking, my God, Texas is huge. It is huge. And then I thought, well, if something were to go down here, right? Like if they had to actually do something to,
corral y'all in.
Corral us in. They would literally there would have to be one sort of significant catastrophic event in one area to take out a lot of people. I mean, that's what I thought, because there's just too many people here. It's too big. I drive through hill country here, and it just goes on and on and on. There's woods and trees, all kinds of places to kind of hang out. And
that's California. It's pretty much every state actually, except Texas is just so huge.
It's huge.
As a territory like.
There's a lot of guns here. A lot of people with guns also. There's probably more gun owners in Texas than any other state in the union. So that's the problem. What am I going to do? I have no idea. All I know is that this is...
Well, you were led to get out of California, which I have a lot of family, a lot of friends, all the length and breadth of California. And I have told them, as I was trapped up there in Theocracy Land up in Idaho, everybody saying, get out, come here. And, I really, really valued it and loved them that they were offering a sanctuary that every time they would say, come here, I saw California as a black zone.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'd see the shape of the state in black. Mm-hmm. And that was before Fukushima, and after Fukushima, then I keep telling them, you need to get out of there. It's probably too late, or we're going to morph into something. I do believe the solar flares neutralize radiation. That's just me.
Mm-hmm.
That's what kind of, I spend a lot of time outside, and that I know that there's a counteraction to that. I love it on your chat. I will smoke for everybody who gets nervous. I'm smoking for all of you on your shows, and I've smoked for 40-some years, and I'll put my health up with any other late 50s chick.
All right.
And that's, it didn't surprise me when Jovial said that's what protects us from the radiation from all the nuke testings, they blamed it on cigarettes, but it's really all the nuke actions they've taken, all this lung cancer and a lot of cancers and stuff. And they're going to blame it on smoking because it's so blatant. Breathing in hot substances is not good or normal. But right. I don't have troubles with smog. I don't have troubles with allergies. I don't have troubles with a lot of things that, non-smokers do. My kid did not have asthma or any health problems at all. My pets lived to be, 15 years old normally. So, that's kind of a funny thing, too. But I do believe that there is going to be some big, blatant transitional human force going on, and maybe this aspect will be the last to trigger. All those dates did make, kind of arrest me. That singer that you talked about with the autoerotic thing, I'm surprised so many do that.
Yeah,
I supposedly go out that way.
That was Kevin Gilbert, and that was back in 1996, and at that time
that
I was actually
during a flurry of those aspects too.
I actually was living with somebody at the time who was friends and had played with Kevin, and that was then. It was right then, happening then, and she told me about him, and it didn't really impact me until later when I kind of got into his music a bit more. It certainly shook her up. I think we are staring something down. I think something is coming. Because what I'm feeling, it's not just these videos that people are sending me or the information, but I also think that I'm just picking up a general sense of nervousness.
Yeah, in your gut. Yeah, I am too. Well, and with me, I have two very devoted, sweet dogs, and one PETA cat, Charles. And those three are hovering at my literal feet all week, and they're pretty close to me all the time anyway. But I noticed it, all three of them at my feet every time I sit down. So I keep an eye. I notice it when they start getting nervous or real mongering on me. They are very sensitive, and being in a new climate, a new locale with weird weather and tornadoes and stuff like that, I try to comfort them that we're safe and we're good. And but with the baby coming on that time period, that was the first time I've come across that, Robert. So you're really good, and I do believe it has something to do with that. Star of David. Now, Carl Boudreaux, do you ever read him?
Well, it's really interesting. I don't, but the people at Conspiracy Planet have been posting some of my stuff there along with Carl Boudreaux stuff. So,
yeah, he's good. He's usually on that Star of David. That's the first time I'd come across that before last year, and yeah, he's really good. I really like him, and he's like you. You men energy is very good for us because you're always real calm about it, and here it is, and what do we do, and or what's going on mainly, just data.
Speaking of astrology, I'm going to have Elias Lonsdale back on the show probably next week. So I don't know if you heard the last time I had Elias on was with Richard Grossinger. Elias is one of the great astrologers of our time. And he'll be on either Wednesday or Friday. So maybe we can get some further clarification and his take on this. I was trying to, when I saw that thing on Rumor Mill News, and I posted on the chat site, because the data itself, and I went to the originating site to see it bigger to get the dates, and the chart, the big picture, is the most important of the data I came across with that anyway, and all those dates, which for some reason they triggered me. Important things were happening then that I don't recall off the top of my head. But those dates were all really important, and I remember there were 3 in '96, and but I remember that time, and
my life pretty well, and because I was doing a lot of astrology then, and I don't know. There's something that's coming to a head. I think a lot of people are really feeling it, but of course nobody knows. It could be anything with what's been going on.
Right. Well, let's cross our fingers and cross our eyes and say our prayers. And let's.
Well, yeah. I mean, you got directed to Austin pretty off the wall, I thought, but that's how it goes. For you to make such a huge move with your kid.
Right. Well, we'll see.
So, you have to really have faith and trust that you will get the memo. If the sign says to bolt, to get out, or to go somewhere else, you'll get it and you'll know it and you'll do it. I know I will. I've always known that. It's like for me to get relocated here is pretty off the wall. Yeah. And I'm not, grounded. I'm not rooted here in any sense of the word. I've got a brother. Now, I have a brother who's kind of like a pre-source. He has spontaneously left, like Denver, to Seattle. Mm-hmm. And Seattle, he then spontaneously, so when he makes a move, I kind of, wake up a little bit and try to get more sensitive to the vibes, and but he's on his way out of Florida. Mm-hmm. He got, and that really isn't like him to be that big of a mover, but yeah, he's on his way out of the eastern coastline of Florida this week, headed in here to our ancestral homeland. Mm-hmm. So I find that kind of heads uppy too, for him to be getting off the coast, the East Coast, right? And right in peak summertime. See, he loves it. He loves the ocean. He loves the water and the beach, and so that was kind of a heads up too. So yeah, you get the call. You got to make your decision. I'm not going to go in. I can't abandon my pets. I've still got my kid out west. I don't feel like I could go off continent right now. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if I would. Yeah. To South America. It's just, I don't know. I don't feel like I would like it there.
Well, anyway, let's like I said, let's just stay present. Right. Keep our hearts and minds open, and right. And stay as much in our flow as we possibly can. And what else? Right. What do, right?
We have affected the energies of the planet before. The people
first, and then trust in God. That's what the Sufi said. Hey, we're going to move on, partner, and if nobody else can call in, then I'm going to transition out of here and get on with my day. Your insights are always welcomed and invaluable.
Oh, and thank you.
Okay.
Okay, I love you, Robert. Take care.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
That's our good friend, the gardener. We've got I've got another hour left in the show. Will we sustain this for an hour? I was just on Facebook. This is an interesting dialogue that's going on there. It's going on while I've been on the air. So I posted the show. It said, the end, are we near? And a good friend of mine, whom I really like dearly, love dearly, she said, this is your friendly, loving reminder that energizing this end stuff is not healthy for you. You create your own reality. Since I love you and my son and hope to see you soon, it would be sad for me if it were the end for you. I love you, dear friend. Why do you feel the need to stay so tied to ancient darkness? Imagine how much fun you could have in the light. It is the ego, I believe, not the heart, that keeps you in this constant battle of intellect and wit with the dark forces. But in the end, they win because you're one hell of an energy source, dear one, and you give your energy to them. What do you think about that? Do you think I give my energy to the darkness by bringing this stuff up? So another commenter who comes to the show quite a bit, dear friend, says, reminds me of the comments people used to make when Eric Francis was trying to stretch the consciousness of his readers by addressing very serious events which his investigative reporter's eyes saw as important. He got slapped down every time. After years of watching him concede to his readers' comments, similar to the ones above, I started looking for astrologers who were willing to look deeply into where we are at this time. Through Astro Dispatch, I found Robert, looking at reality, investigating and talking about it, confronting the shadow, healthy. Running away from the shadow doesn't diminish the shadow, it'll get stronger. I don't know, Eric, just Robert. I wish you would stop energizing the end. Do you feel like I'm energizing the end here? Do you feel like I'm bringing on the demise of humanity by talking about this? Let's take another call. Hello there.
Yeah, this is Philip.
Hey, Philip, what's happening, man?
Hey, Robert. I was listening to your show, and I actually it was symbolic because it's very profound. I was listening to this guy Dabu77, and then I listened to the video twice. I thought it was very profound, and then I go to your radio show, and you're talking about the same thing that I was listening to.
Interesting.
And I just thought that was just so symbolic and so amazing and profound. I was like, oh my God, how did that happen? I was just reading about this and listening to it and really getting into it, and then I go to your show, and you're talking about the same thing. Well, it's not just that we're talking about the profoundness of it, how symbolic it is. And
it seems to be in the air, you know. Maybe it's because we live in such a place where media is so viral now, and we're all kind of tapping into the same sources of the collective theater, or maybe we're actually sort of feeling something is kind of in the wind. I can only go with my own sort of internal guidance systems around this and whatever else I can patch together in terms of signs and symbols. So what do you think, Philip? What's your world like?
Well, basically, the 13 is significant. It has to do with ascension, correct? When you look at
so. That makes sense. Yep.
There's 13 DNA, which represent Christ. There's 12, disciples, and the 13th being Jesus, and that represent the 13 DNAs that nobody knows about, and that actually represents the Christic energy, the Christ, the universal energy, like the Antakarana, the library of all.
Right.
That's the 13. And so, like they say, the universe is inside us. And so, I don't know. It's the Zolkin calendar. I'm really into that. I study the Zolkin calendar a lot. And there's 13 waves, 13 tones with 20 days, 20 different days, adding up to 260. So all these 13 things coming, and then there's this 13th Star of David that we're coming up to, in the 22nd. So I just think it's very profound, and something is going on. And I see it like within my own world. I see it within Langenberg, and I see it with, the energies of Langenberg actually, fulfilling these prophecies, so to speak.
Langenberg, of course, being the water that Philip is associated with, and Max Langenberg. And Philip was a guest on the show talking about the Langenberg water and water in general. It was a really well-received show. The other thing that was funny that you mentioned this is kind of an interesting segue. I was actually in the lazy river yesterday at Six Flags Fiesta, floating around the lazy river, and I was thinking about Jesus in the lazy river.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, and what I was thinking about was that I was in my head, I was trying to reconcile the kind of old age Christian version of Jesus, the new age sort of version of the Christ, or the Luciferic version. I'm trying, and then also trying to reconcile, well, what is the historical personage of Jesus and all this other stuff. And I was just thinking, well, this guy was a magician. He was an absolute magician. He could perform miracles. This was a powerful individual who was absolutely multidimensional and magical. And somewhere along the way, that message got drowned out by a bunch of other stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I thought to myself, well, this is the type of frequency that we need to, because he was basically saying, hey, look, you don't need any of the other stuff. You just go right to the source and look, this is where it's at. This is what
God, you're so right on, Robert. It's so funny.
Yeah. And so, and if you think about that, that is like the greatest weapon in the universe. I mean, not that you would use it as a weapon, but just think about the inherent power that an individual could wield with that kind of absolute faith and utter knowing and pure love and magic and the ability to be miraculous. You line up, millions of people like that, God-centered people. I mean, this world's in a very different place. So I don't know. It was just a thought I had while floating down the lazy river yesterday.
That is so cool. I've been having more meditations on the water also. Just yesterday, in fact, I had someone post a thing on Facebook about Bruce Lee. If I Am Bruce Lee is the title of, and you can go see it. But he talks about water, and he says, "Be the water," like at the very end of his conversation, and it's just so profound. It's like, be the water. And what is water? It's humble. It's humble. It flows. It's non-judgmental. It just is, and it picks up everything in its environment. It's like, and when you bring water, like highly living structured water into your being, what does that do? It activates these DNA, and the DNA emits these photons of light to communicate with the other cells. But what are we? We're basically light beings, and so this light is become more crystalline in nature and more light in nature. I believe water is the key. Water is the key because water is everywhere. Anywhere there's life, there's water.
It's true. I mean, we were just doing the theme park yesterday in this high-pitched 80s, and we were really dragging. And look, the water inside the water park, it's not the best water in the world. It's super chlorinated. You got all these bodies moving around, but nonetheless, once we touched that water, our realities changed. We were refreshed. We were relaxed. We were taking in other people's joy around being in the water.
Exactly.
So you're spot on with it. And it's the water. It's funny too because we were driving home and I was listening to Earth, Wind, and Fire. I'm thinking, well, it's Earth, Wind, and Fire. Where's the water? Now, obviously, it's three guys inside Earth, Wind, and Fire, and those are the astrological correspondences to their signs. But water was the one left out, and then I realized also that we're the water, right? It's the emotion of the audience that joins with Earth, Wind, and Fire.
The audience is the water, exactly.
Yeah. So you're on it, and I guess the key would be to stay hydrated, stay emotional. We're in Jupiter and Cancer, and to stay in the flow as much as possible right now.
Because water does calm you down, and when you get too excited, the nerves get too excited, the water will calm you down. Go into a bath and just relax into a nice bath with maybe essential oils or whatever, and it literally just calms your whole being down. You're like rejuvenated. But anyway, I want to talk about these blood moons and that are in 2014 and 2015, and I heard a lot about these things, but this is pretty profound too, don't you think?
Yeah. Why don't you go ahead and just kind of riff on that a little bit, and then tell the people.
4 blood moons. I think there's 4 blood moons in 2014 and 2015, along with 4 dark suns, and they correspond to like Jewish holidays, believe it or not. Okay. And then they've been talked about for like thousands of years. These blood moons. And I also that one other thing was these stars, this Star of David. They talk about being war stars because when you go back to when it first started in 1990 August, there was a big war that started right then, and then there's other times where war started on the Star of David that happened on these other Star of Davids that happened in between till where we are now in the 13th one. So I just think it's all symbolical that it's coming to an end. It's precipitating to an end. It's like and that this will maybe bring the revelations of where there might be some peace eventually. And I think that 2017, the guy that I listened to before I saw your radio show, Robert, where they talked about 2017 and Virgo. Did you see that by any chance?
No, but I think they're referring to Jupiter and Virgo in 2017.
Yeah, Jupiter giving this Virgo giving birth with Jupiter right under her leg, or basically right in between her legs, giving birth to Jupiter, and then you had 12 stars above her head, and that's going to be 22nd of September. And I think that's very profound too.
That's my birthday.
That's talked about in Revelations.
Yeah, that's my birthday.
Well, yeah, that's right. Oh, have you ever heard of the Love Cards by Robert Lee Camp?
Yeah, I have.
Do you know what your love card is? Your birth card, I mean, not your birth card?
Yeah, I'm a 2 of clubs.
You're a 2 of clubs, yeah, exactly. And I looked it up and I read it, and it was totally you. Because I've done this for about 30 people, and it's so profound when you read it.
It's called the conversation card, right?
Yeah, exactly. You're the conversation card, exactly.
Yeah. What's really funny about that is I am the 2 of clubs. My karma card is the Ace of Spades. Well, guess who the Ace of Spades is? It's my ex-wife.
No, that's funny.
The 2 of clubs is her karma card. And we had a child together. And our child is the 2 of spades. So he got the 2 from me and the spade from her. Isn't that interesting? That
is.
Yeah.
I was listening to your show on Wednesday, and you had a lady that called in about couples, a relationship. She wanted to be married.
Oh, the final caller, yeah.
Yeah, and so basically, she gave the date. So I had my love card book right there, and it's so funny because what you were saying was exactly what the love cards were saying. Exactly.
Really?
So yeah, it was. It was very profound. Like there was a lot of intensity in the relationship, but the compatibility was not there. The compatibility would be very difficult eventually, but there was a lot of intensity and a lot of attraction. But the compatibility was like a -3, which is like the worst you can have. So, and that's basically what you were saying to her.
Yeah, well, anyways. I'm glad you heard it because I don't think she did.
Yeah, exactly. When you're first in love and it's your first time, you don't know anything better.
Well,
you just go with the flow.
Yeah, well, God bless her. I hope she finds what she needs in that connection. So, well, listen, Philip, appreciate you calling in.
Thank you so much, Robert. Yeah, appreciate it. Let me talk.
You take care, man.
Okay, you too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. That's our friend Philip, all the way from the Pacific Northwest. And Jupiter in Cancer should be a very good time for Langenberg water. And if you don't know what it is, you can go online and check it out, Langenberg water, especially if you live in the Pacific Northwest. It's hard to get it outside the Pacific Northwest unless you're independently wealthy and you can order crates of it. A long time ago, I talked about this on the show. I was friends with these guys from Trinity Springs. I was the first journalist that they brought up there to Trinity Springs in Idaho, and I got to hang out there spring and see their operation. They're very cool guys, very, very cool dudes. I had a blast with them, and I got them to donate some of their water to these electronic music parties that I was kind of involved with at the time. And one of them was actually in New York City, and my friends in New York got cases and cases and cases of Trinity water delivered to them and stacked in a warehouse in Brooklyn for their events. It was an interesting time. I wish they were still around. They were good dudes. All right, it is 1:24 here from deep in the heart of Texas. And how did that get played out with my so it's funny watching these two people go at it on my page. Very interesting. And two very good friends too, by the way. I'll skip the details. All right. So if you want to call in, like the Gardner and Philip, 347-308-8995, 347-308-8995. We can talk about what's taking place. If you think that I'm energizing the end of the world, I can't be super uber positive all the time. It's funny. I was having a discussion with a good friend of mine last night. We've known each other for years. His birthday's on July 22nd, by the way. How's that for a synchronicity? And he was telling me that he was having he was finally overcoming his cynicism. And it's interesting because I don't think we often see each other the way others see us. In fact, I know that's the case. If you get a couple people in your life that see you the way that you think you, if you have a few people in your life that see you in a way that is clear and honest and reflective and recognize who you are, then you're doing okay. Because a lot of people don't. But if you have a few in your life that do that, you're doing okay. Anyway, I've known my friend for years. And what's interesting is that I've seen him in his work, right? He's for the last 10 years or so, he's been involved in spiritual work, working with spiritual organizations, websites, speakers, and so on, and public events. And in the office, I've hung out with him, and I've never seen him be anything but positive. When dealing with other people, interactions, he's very positive. He's a positive guy. So when he says that he's finally overcoming his cynicism, it's kind of like, although I know that is there with him, it's kind of like news to me in some ways, because the outward reality is that based on how I see him, how other people see him and view him, he's not very cynical. And yet I know that there's a war that goes on inside of himself. And he's been dealing with that and getting through that. And so I thought, well, maybe I'm the one that's cynical. And maybe I'm the guy, unlike him. And he says, no, I actually think you're very positive. So it's interesting how we see one another, right? Or the lack thereof. Okay, so it looks like we are not going to have any more callers today. It's often quality, not quantity, when it comes to interaction. So that let me transition on out of here. I'll be back on Monday with the mashup. Then next week I'm setting up guests, lots of guests. They're going to start coming at you. And I think Wednesday I'm going to bring Elias Lonsdale on, and we can talk about this Star of David. Let's get a perspective from not just another astrologer, but if you ask people that really know astrology, Elias is the astrologer's astrologer. So let's bring him on, hopefully on Wednesday, if not Wednesday and Friday. We're already talking. So it's going to be one of those days. And we've got a few other guests that are very interesting lined up. It looks like, I think in 2 weeks, probably George Norrie might be back on the show again. So we'll talk to George, catch up with George. And I think we'll have him on along with Sarah Nash, a couple of Geminis. That should be very interesting, huh? All right, so that's it. I want to thank everybody for listening and chiming in and adding your energy to this experience. These are interesting times. So use your head to discern what's real, your heart to stay up on what's possible. Have a great and blessed weekend. Stay close to your source. I'll be back on Monday. Adios.
We are living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed and some alteration in our reality occurs. We would have the overwhelming impression that we were reliving the present, déjà vu, perhaps in precisely the same way, hearing the same words, saying the same words. I submit that these impressions are valid and significant, and I will even say this: such an impression is a clue that at some past time point a variable was changed, reprogrammed as it were, and that because of this an alternative world branched off.